Anyway, yeah, we'll start off with the Dallas gunman, and then we'll talk about the Israel-related stuff in a little bit. But as of now, there's not much information, but a gunman, a sniper rifle, shot at an ICE facility in Dallas. And of course, when you first hear that, you go, oh my God, this is yet another instance of like the violence that they were talking about, this administration was talking about against ICE agents. But of course, the difference in this situation was the targets weren't actually the ICE agents at the facility, but instead those who were detained at the facility. They shot and killed. The shooter shot and killed 2 people. Okay. Per NBC, Joshua John grew up in Allen, Texas, where he was in Boy Scouts, unemployed, but previously had done coding, registered independent, once charged with delivering marijuana. His older brother, he wasn't interested in politics on either side, as far as I knew. Yes, I didn't talk about the daughter of the senator, the New Mexico state legislator who went to Israel. It was really funny, though. I saw it last night. I will talk about that as well. Okay. It turns out apolitical Andes are the people you need to fear the most. Not the political Andes, but the apolitical ones. All right. Anyway, we'll get into it now. Gunman kills 2 at ICE immigration facility in Texas, Channel 4 News reports.
A huge police presence near Immigration and Customs Enforcement field office in Dallas. A main artery northwest of the city center cut off after a gunman opened fire, reportedly from a nearby roof.
I met him once and he was unbearable. You met the shooter? Oh, you're talking about the rep, the New Mexico rep. Jesus Christ.
Police called to the scene at 6:40 local time.
The DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased. We're going to be working this investigation shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners.
The investigation centered on the building next to the ICE Enforcement and Removal Center. The shooter firing from this roof, reportedly killing 2 detainees and leaving a 3rd critically injured in hospital. The FBI saying no law.
Asmin Rad is trying to make this about you. Wait, what? How? He's not even live. Is he? He tweeted? I mean, I don't really care what he has to say. And I'm sure I have more pressing matters and more significant ops than Asmongold, who will, of course, use this as an opportunity to stamp out any sort of political discontent, political dissent against the administration, and certainly the ICE practices and whatnot. So it's not remotely shocking to me that a lot of people will do this.
Law enforcement officers were hit, but releasing this image of bullets found near the dead gunman.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence.
Yeah, this is like this is an incredibly strange piece of evidence, I will say, because even with a Charlie Kirk situation with Tyler Robinson, like the bullets have Chow Bella Chow on them, right, engraved on them. But then and he's shooting Charlie Kirk. Like there is a through line, like a logical through line there, right? If you present it as the victim in this circumstance, Charlie Kirk, is like a fascist, and you're like anti-fascist or something like that still makes some logical sense. Whether it's correct or not doesn't matter. But in this circumstance, he's saying like he's anti-ICE, okay? But also he's shooting at the detainees. He like shot and killed people who he would be supposedly trying to release, right? Like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But let's take a look.
The evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
But also, look. All I'm going to say is this. Even fucking Aaron Rupar said this is the fishiest shit I've ever seen. We're supposed to believe the shooter wrote anti-ICE in pen on a bullet, then shot detainees, but not ICE officers. Like anti-ICE in and of itself is such a strange thing to write as well. Like he didn't say like fuck ICE, he just said like anti-ICE. Like what? Like it's kind of giving Black's Rule, if you know what I'm talking about, for those of you who don't know. But I guess it might have been that he shot at something. Breaking news update: Shooter fired into an unmarked van transporting ICE detainees in Dallas. Detainees were struck inside the van. 2 people inside were killed and one was injured. The shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, sources say. So that makes a little bit more sense as far as like what he was targeting. So then that makes a little bit more sense as far as like the shooter being anti-ICE for sure, even though the bullets saying anti-ICE is just strange in general.
Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack.
Since President Trump came to power promising to deport 1 million undocumented migrants a year, ICE has become the public face of his hardline immigration policy. carrying out raids on workplaces and car parks. Officers often marked.
I think one of the strangest parts about this is that given that the shooter shot and killed ICE detainees, this administration that has literally presented the people that are being detained by ICE as violent criminals, that has actually done everything in their power to like put them in fucking alligator Alcatraz, dehumanize them, treat them like they're fucking Pokemon, are now going to turn around and be like, what a heinous crime that this shooter committed. It's like, bitch, you want that crime. You're basically doing that, okay? Like you're basically doing exactly what this shooter is doing, but for a more convoluted, from a more convoluted and technically not illegal perspective, I guess.
Pulling people off the street. The field office attack today, subject to a bomb threat last month. A month earlier, a detention facility, also in Texas, attacked in what authorities said was a coordinated ambush.
For those of you who don't know the history of the Bracero program, and in the aftermath of the Bracero program, and I've talked about this before, in American history, in the aftermath of the Bracero program, there were mass deportation initiatives that were being taken place. And in this very same state, the state of Texas, you had ranchers with guns running around looking for marshals to shoot and kill. The reason why they were doing that is because they did not want their neighbors to be apprehended. They did not want their farmhands to be apprehended and mass deported. This is in American history. This has happened in American history. Not to say that this person is not like operating on some fucking left-leaning ideology or whatever, but just understand that this has happened throughout American history, okay? This is not new. I have brought this up on numerous occasions. I've brought this up a lot. People get very frustrated when mass deportations start taking place, and then they take matters in their own hands in a country like America where everybody has fucking guns and a proclivity to do violent things, and then they do shit like this.
They left a police officer shot and injured.
To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop.
Bro, this dude killed detainees, and these guys are still talking about the fear that ICE agents have to experience on a daily basis. Once again, there is no consideration for the victims here. There is no consideration for the victims who were already apprehended and were presented as people that were slated to be deported from the country for the crime of being born on a different side of the fucking border. And what they're going to do in this circumstance is basically make it so that it's illegal for people like myself to say, you shouldn't do this. You should not engage in mass deportations. They're going to say, how dare you say that? You're threatening the lives of ICE agents. No, I'm not. I'm not doing that at all. Political violence is unacceptable. Obviously, I have never advocated for political violence. I don't advocate for political violence, but it doesn't matter. The violence coming from the system here is also unacceptable, and we should be able to talk about that. Yeah, they're going to make it so that you say fuck ICE or abolish ICE is a hate crime. That's what they're trying to do.
It has very real consequence. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis.
This attack coming 2 weeks after the assassination of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk in Utah, prompting White House pledges of a crackdown on left-wing organizations that it says constitute a domestic terror movement. America's political divisions, its culture wars, getting bloodier and more dangerous by the day.
We begin, though, with Brooke Taylor. She is on the ground in Dallas with an update for us right now. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, guys. Yeah, officials spent most of this press conference.
Chat, remember, mass deportation of random people for no serious crimes whatsoever is not violent, okay? Is not violent at all. You know what the real violence is? Calling that out. Don't you dare call that out. Don't you dare say this is an inherently violent act that you are engaging in that is unjustifiable, that is cruel for no reason whatsoever. Don't you dare say that. That's the real violence. Calling us out is the real violence. Exhibiting discontent is the real violence. It's fucking ridiculous. Yeah, mass deportations and mass apprehension, not violent. Saying we shouldn't do that and we should actually offer conditional amnesty to every single person that has been living on U.S. soil, that hasn't done any crimes or anything, and are simply just trying to make ends meet. That's the real violence. Don't you dare do it.
Talking about how this anti-ICE rhetoric has to stop, or you have this violence like this happen. Federal agents, they're just trying to enforce the law, these officials say. The FBI is now investigating this as a targeted act. Here is what we know. Homeland Security says that before 7 a.m., a sniper started shooting from a nearby rooftop and fired indiscriminately at the ICE facility, including a van that was in the Sallyport. DHS says 3 detainees in that van were shot, and at least one of the detainees was killed. The gunman then turned the gun on himself. Officials say no ICE agents were hurt. The FBI, though, shared pictures of rounds found right near that shooter with anti-ICE engraved on those shell casings. This is the latest in a string of targeted attacks on ICE facilities right here in Texas. At this same facility, a man was arrested for making a bomb threat last month. Then in July, a group ambushed officers outside a separate Texas ICE facility. One officer was shot and survived that shooting. Senator Ted Cruz was here at this press conference and spoke about this violence.
Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together.
I agree. Which is literally the reason why I abhor and disavow and also consistently criticize the actions of this administration. Mass deportations is an inherently violent process, okay? That's what it is violence. But a lot of people only experience that or only recognize that as like unjust and violent behavior when they see it happen to their immediate loved ones or when they see it happen in their neighborhoods. If they don't see it happen in real time and they're looking at it from afar, or have no care or consideration for the people that are being apprehended, people that are being detained, people that are being deported, they literally, should we not kill more ICE? Man, shut the fuck up. You're such a bitch, dude. Imagine creating a fucking sock account, coming in here on this day, specifically to be like, oh, I was listening to your demands, Antifa commander. Should we stop? Like, shut the fuck up. No one believes your bullshit, okay? Federal agents in the chat. Come on, dude. Motherfuckers over at Langley being like, this is gonna get him. We're setting up a real good case here, sir. Nice try, dude. Anyway, as I was saying, the way we interpret, the way we look at violence, the way we see violence is entirely dependent on whether we have any sort of up close and personal relationship with the victims or whether we see it happen in our neighborhoods. Okay, when it's happening elsewhere, when it's happening far away to people that you do not actually consider the humanity of, you have no capacity of recognizing it as like an inherently violent act.
If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe.
And of course, so many responding to this attack this afternoon. Vice President J.D. Vance posted a statement on X saying, quote, the obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop. You also have Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He tweeted, quote, this assassination will not slow our arrest, detention, and deportation of illegal immigrants. Again, guys, this happened outside of a processing center where illegal migrants are taken to get processed after they're arrested by ICE.
All right, Brooke Taylor in Dallas on the scene for us there. Stand by.
Be careful pulling stuff up on stream for this. The pick of the gunman after his suicide is all over Twitter. Oh shit, I didn't see that.
I thank you.
All right, Bill Daley's a former FBI investigator and joins us now. I mean, this almost seems like a daily occurrence, Bill, that we have another day. The sun comes up, dawn breaks, and another politically motivated shooting. It's just no sign of stopping.
It's horrible, John. And you know, John, over these past several months and even the past since the administration took over, you know, we've seen this kind of push by politicians and other people around ICE facilities. They've gone as far as even some of these elected officials kind of, you know, trying to force their way in, stopping vehicles. So, you know, it is kind of a buildup of what we've seen over the past few months, only to this point to a deadly level. You know, I think a lot of people speak about this rhetoric. You know, I'll cite a few things, but I know a lot of people speaking about it like to talk more about the investigation. But, you know, when you have elected officials calling ICE agents, you know, agents, modern Gestapo agents, or, you know, governors moving to not have masks on ICE agents because they want people to know who they are so they can go after them. You know, all of these things are lead up to people who might be prone, who are driven in a certain with ideology or direction, as we've seen today, and they carry out these horrific acts.
Bill, what is with this? I don't know if you would call it a trend, but for lack of a better word, the trend we're seeing where these assassins and mass shooters now like to try and carve little messages on shell casings before they carry out these shootings. Is this something that you have seen before the last few months, or is this new?
No, it is not new at all. Americans are a uniquely violent nation with an access to an arsenal of weapons, okay? And also, Americans are pretty fucking suicidal on top of everything else. In the past, suicidal dudes that wanted to make a name for themselves, that find themselves in the pit of despair, would go to a school and do this kind of thing, and nobody gave a shit about them. It became normalized. So now, in the aftermath of a couple high-profile assassination attempts with like Thomas Crooks and numerous other people now who also have that same exact tendency are looking at targets. They're looking at political targets. They're looking at high-profile political people, or they're looking at politicians in general. They're looking at ICE in general to exercise their violent desires against in an effort to make a fucking name for themselves. Because it turns out when 46 school shootings take place in the country, they're like, well, that's just going to be yet another school shooting that nobody gives a fuck about, okay? And copycats are obviously super commonplace. This is just how it goes. Now the new meta, it seems, is to deliver a message or something. Back in the day, it used to be called going postal because you see a lot of postal service people do this kind of stuff, right? People would do this at their workplaces, and then it became schools that people would shoot up. The only difference now is who the targets are. The targets are more consequential in the eyes of the administration, in the eyes of the media.
It may happen periodically over a period of time where individuals, murderers, or other people may do something similar to this, but it's not a trend. This seems to be certainly a trend. You know, we saw it with the Mangione shooting in New York against the United Healthcare CEO, where he left those bullets on the sidewalk. We saw it with Charlie Kirk.
You're not taking this anti-ice bullet marking seriously, are you? I mean, it looks strange for sure, but now that we know that the shooter was not, actually like directly shooting at detainees deliberately and was instead shooting at an unmarked van that it thought had a bunch of ICE agents in it, it does develop a profile. It does develop a motive that makes more sense. The anti-ICE part of the writings are so stupid, but you know, who knows?
Shooter, and now here. So, you hate to say copycat, but certainly all the hallmarks of it is, within the past few weeks, months, if you will, we have people doing the same thing. The other thing, Jillian, I wanted to talk about is the FBI's investigating this. I think, a couple of positive things to be taken away from this. Law enforcement was extremely...
This is a funny take. Only Americans think. Other Americans are some critical thinking people. I agree. We live in an absurd universe, man.
Responsive to this. FBI there on the scene. I think under the leadership of Director Patel, they're trying to be very forward-leaning and transparent. That was mentioned both by the SAC, agent in charge of the Dallas office, as well as Director Patel, who came out and posted those images that you just referenced. So they're trying to be as transparent.
It did come out that he was shooting at a van that was going into the facility, Chatter. It did.
As forward-leaning as they can, and to help the American people not start to spin their wheels with worrying, who's this shooting, is that they were able to provide some clarity pretty quickly with releasing that photo.
I want to come back, Bill, to this idea, the rhetoric. This is Joshua Johnson, who's the ICRO director there in Dallas. Here's what he said a little more than an hour.
This is the second time I've had to stand in front of you and talk about a shooter at one of my facilities. And I think that the takeaway from all of this is that the rhetoric has to stop. There are people out there who are seeing what is being placed online, and they're coming and they're doing acts of violence against ICE employees.
We should mention that there were the shootings at ICE facilities in Texas not long ago. Add to this. And then you have the shooter, who sources identified to Fox News as 29-year-old Joshua John. We're trying to find out more about this individual who takes a gun. Looks like, according to the stripper clip that we saw a picture of posted by the FBI director, that it was just a typical a hunting rifle with a capacity of 5 cartridges, takes that weapon, aims it at the ICE facility, starts firing at will, and then takes their own life. And is it this rhetoric that people just keep doubling down on that suddenly causes someone to snap?
Yeah, this question in and of itself is bringing the attention back to those who have a difference in opinion with the administration and those who understand that these mass apprehensions that are taking place are fucked up. Just as it was the case with the Charlie Kirk execution, these guys immediately turn around and go, you know what the real problem is? It's the people that are naysayers. It's the people that are not patriotic enough. It's the people that are not sufficiently pro Donald Trump. They are the ones who are causing this discontent, as though if no one was saying, hey, man, this is pretty fucked up, people would not actually come to that conclusion on their own. The notion that we cannot actually fucking criticize the administration for doing violent mass apprehensions of random people living on U.S. soil that are fucking working to make ends meet, like that we are not allowed somehow to say that this is wrong objectively when it is literally wrong, is ridiculous. It's absurd.
You know, with kind of borrowing a little bit from my behavioral analysis friends, you know, you just don't know what reaches a individual and what breaking point they have. And although many people can kind of, you know, flick this rhetoric off as being just that, political rhetoric, it does affect a number of people. And I think today, John, with all of the various sources that people are getting information, or ones that maybe want,
yeah, they're going to come for people calling Nazi-style individuals a Nazi-style individual or a fascist, or they're going to come for people that are calling ICE Gestapo. Of course, the real problem here is the administration's carte blanche approach to unlimited cruelty to those that they have designed as enemies of the state. Random fucking neighbors of ours, okay? 1 in 14 families in this country have one undocumented parent, okay? 1 in 14 households in the United States of America have at least one undocumented migrant. Think about that. That's what they want to do. They want to go after 1 in 14 households, and we can't even say that that is fucked up. We can't say that that's fucked up. We can't say, like, hey, man, there's an alternative out there, which is called documenting these people. You know, they're just human beings. Nope, you have to say that they're violent animals that are here to destroy the country. Otherwise, you're an enemy of the state and you must be punished. It's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
Lock themselves into with regard to social media and news outlets, and they're hearing it over and over again. You know, the fragility of people where they are at any particular moment may lead them to commit one of these acts. But the other thing too, John, as we look into this investigation, and the FBI is doing this right now, is to find out, you know, where were they getting this information from? Where was he being, if you want to call it, kind of radicalized to conduct one of these acts? Who was he around? Was he talking to other people about this? It's the same thing they're going through right now, still on the heels of the investigation of the Charlie Kirk assassination, is to find out who else might be in the orbit of this person who may have either encouraged, provided information, in any way knew about these plans and didn't come forward. So, you know, there's still a lot of stones to be turned over in this investigation.
Why didn't they talk about the rhetoric when it was the Walmart shooting, the El Paso shooting, the Albuquerque shooting, the Buffalo, New York shooting, Dylan Roof? Do you want to know why? Because those guys were objectively right-wing, openly far-right, anti-government extremists of the white nationalist variety. What they've decided now is that even if you have someone who is of that background, you can just get away with fucking lying, okay? You can just get away with lying. That's all you need to do, just lie and claim that the shooter was a leftist, like they did in the Minneapolis shootings. Both in the first Minneapolis shooting with Democratic congresspersons, Democratic state legislatures being targeted, you could just claim that the shooter was a leftist or whatever, and people would just go along with it. No fact checks necessary there. Or even with the Annunciation Church shooting, where the profile in the background of that shooter was very clearly a far-right, white nationalist, esoteric, nihilistic neo-Nazi, right? No leftist is ever going to put the names of prominent white nationalists and white supremacist shooters on their fucking gun or talk about it in their fucking manifesto. But it doesn't matter. That didn't stop right-wingers from going along with this narrative that these guys were leftists. They're just creating a profile or creating an environment of hysteria And the reality of the matter is that just like when the Democrats did not actually engage in any sort of counter messaging initiative to correct the record on migrants not being this out of control violent force that was destroying the American social fabric, they are completely lost in the fucking sauce. They don't know. They're completely oblivious to what the administration is doing now. They're creating another manufactured hysteria around left-wing violence. And the Democrats are not turning around and saying, you're wrong. Violence is a constant. It's devoid of any sort of ideological background in the United States of America. But if we were to look at political violence, more often than not, it is actually the right that is engaging in political violence, not the left. And for years and years, the right did not do a single fucking thing. It is mind-boggling to me that all of our leaders are just lost. They're gone. They're nowhere to be found in this process. They're nowhere to... They're not saying anything. They're not correcting the record. They're not even remotely invested. Not realizing the warning signs. Not realizing that the administration is, once again, whipping up an entirely new manufactured hysteria that they will use to erode the First Amendment. They will use to basically stamp out any kind of political discontent. And it will not stop with radical elements in American society. It won't stop. If you think that it's just going to be people like myself, for example, you're wrong. It is going to be anyone and everyone that says, I don't really fuck with what this administration is doing. The Jimmy Kimmel attempt was a great example of this. Not quite correct. Kash Patel literally does not know who Dylan Roof is.
Followed white supremacist propaganda, murdered 9 black parishioners in Charleston in 2015. Do you deny this?
I'm sorry. Dylan Roof?
The director of the FBI doesn't know who Dylan Roof is. Dylan Roof is one of the most high-profile white supremacist shooters. I cannot believe that he does not know who Dylan Roof is. Under different circumstances, I would say he's lying, right? I would say he's obviously lying. He knows who fucking Dylan Roof is. But in this day and age, the incompetence, the sheer incompetence from this administration is so obvious that I don't know. I don't think he knows who fucking Dylan Roof is. I don't think he knows. I totally believe that he is that stupid.
Roof, can you give me some more information?
You're head of the FBI, you probably know this. If you don't know, that's fine. Okay.
You can give me a reminder. I've got a lot in front of me.
It was national news. Dylan Roof, who followed...
God damn, he's so fucking stupid. We got absolute nutters leading. We got the fucking nutters leading the madhouse. Oh my God. What do you expect? Of course, for context, historically, specifically in Texas during the Eisenhower administration in response to Operation W Back, it was the Republican farmers who went out and ran marshals out of town. Exactly. That's what I was talking about. I literally talked about this before. I explained this throughout the election cycle to tell you how much anger and resentment builds when these kinds of mass deportation initiatives start happening. When Eisenhower did this, it was the Republican right-wing ranchers that literally would go around town in their fucking pickup trucks with weapons to hunt down marshals. Because at the time, it was the marshals that were conducting these mass deportation operations. This is before INS or ICE ever existed. There was no Department of Homeland Security, for example.
This week about mask mandates for ICE officers. A new rule proposed and put forward by Governor Gavin Newsom. Take a listen to what he said on Saturday. I want to get your...
I'll be signing a bill, the first in the nation.
Yeah. Again, this is what I meant when I said they're going to go after anything and everything. Gavin Newsom makes a perfectly reasonable initiative in the state of California, which demands that public servants actually follow the law. And they can't hide their identity when they're conducting these operations. There is so many good reasons for this provision to exist. Why, you might ask? Because if you have faceless, masked, armed thugs of the state that don't present their identification, that don't have to present their identification, you can have copycats. This has already happened. There are plenty of people who have been arrested for falsely presenting themselves as ICE agents to kidnap and sexually assault people, okay? That's a real thing that has happened in America in the last fucking 9 months. These guys are public servants. They have no right to hide their identity in the process of taking away someone's liberties. Like, what are we talking about? I can't even comprehend how this has become a point of contention, that it's like, no, you have to actually shelter the public from who their IDs are. There's a reason why people's badge numbers are on their fucking chest, or used to be, right? What are we doing? What are we doing? This also protects ICE agents as well. Technically, if every single person that is supposedly acting out the way that the law is designed, right? If they're doing this lawful order, following a lawful order by the administration, there is no reason to try and hide your identity, because you're following the rules that the administration has presented. And it protects ICE agents, because then people are in a country where everybody has a fucking gun, people don't immediately assume that it's a random group of people that are trying to engage in a fucking kidnapping in broad daylight, okay? Because if you don't know that these group of masked thugs, okay, that are coming at you from an unmarked car, for example, are actually following a lawful order by the federal government, or if they're just a bunch of random psychopaths who want to kill you, if you don't know the distinction, if you don't know the difference, because everyone is masked, then sometimes people are going to engage in an act of self-defense.
Saying enough. ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
How does that play into all of this when we're talking about the identities of specific individual identities?
Yeah, well, I can tell you what they're afraid of. They're afraid of something that occurred today, and they're afraid of something that may happen to them or their families if they're identified. We're not talking about normal, everyday police operations where people in patrol cars or FBI agents are out there conducting, everyday activities. But when they're involved in these more contentious issues, which seem to be in certain locales more contentious than others, is they're very much concerned about their well-being and safety of themselves and their families, who may come under attack. Could be everything from people showing up at their doorstep. Very easy today, a couple of clicks away, you can find out who somebody is by an image and therefore where they live. So those are the things people are concerned about. So I mean, you have to really, when the governor says that, you have to say, well, what is he then saying? He's saying that it's okay for all these people to then be further exposed, because they're carrying out their duties as sworn law enforcement officers of this country, carrying out the laws have been prescribed by Congress. So, I mean, I think we have to take a look at that very sobering. The other thing, Jillian, is that, with a lot of the talk about, people having due process. Well, today, two of these people who are being just detained are denied their due process because they've been killed.
Right.
So when you flip that around, you have to say, what is really happening here when someone's willing to take not just someone's life, if the intention was to take an ICE agent's life or ICE agent's life, but also the due process of those people who are just being...
Dude, even the potential for an ICE agent's life that could be taken is an issue of higher consequence in the eyes of these people than the actual victims in this process, who were detained people that were slated for deportation. Understand that they do not even remotely give a shit about all of the people that they're detaining, so much so that they just glance beyond that point, because they can't even make that argument. They can't even say like, the poor souls that were lost here, because every rhetorical tool that they've used has been to dehumanize the people that are being detained, so that people are more comfortable with this mass detention process. So they can't turn around and be like, the poor souls that were slain, the poor souls that were murdered in this process. It's like the hypothetical violence against ICE agents is more consequential for these people than the actual people that were killed. They're not real people in the eyes of Fox News, the right broadly, the administration. The people that are being deported, detained and slated for deportation are not seen as real people ever. It is crazy. How the fuck do people not realize this, man? Yeah, just a reminder that Republican candidate Valentina Gomez posted a video simulating the execution of a migrant in December. And then they turn around and they go, violent rhetoric, violent rhetoric, violent rhetoric.
Detained. They've not been convicted, and there's been no other specific allegations lodged against them, and their due process now has halted.
Yes, you have a gunman who allegedly was anti-ICE by the inscribings on the cartridges, the shell casing, and it ended up that it was detainee who died here. Mm-hmm. Exactly. You mentioned this idea of risk and danger for agents who go out there every day, and they are just merely carrying out the laws of the United States of America. We heard personally from one of them back in July on Martha's show.
If they are carrying out the laws of the United States of America, and as a law enforcement officer acting on the orders of the federal government that have unimaginable power, the power to take a life without any accountability whatsoever, the power to actually take away someone's freedom, they have to do this in a lawful manner. And a part of that is doing it in a way where you know that this person is an ICE agent. You know this person is a member of law enforcement. You know what his badge number is. You have identifiable features, and they cannot mask themselves. But as I talked about before, the way that the Trump administration is gearing to change the domestic terrorism designation, which does not exist, right? Like there are no domestic terror groups, for example. You have to be foreign funded in order to be declared a terrorist organization. But now they're trying to do Antifa. They're trying to make Antifa into an organization, even though it's not a defined organization at all. In that executive order, even demanding that an ICE agent show you identification is considered doxing, okay? So they want to make that an act of terror. If you're in the process of being detained by an ICE agent and you turn around and say, I'm an American citizen, can you please show me identification? I don't know if you're a fucking agent or not. Who the fuck are you? That's considered doxing. That's illegal. They want to make that illegal. Understand that they are they're manufacturing outrage here. They are trying to create an environment where people are more comfortable with what the government is going to do next. They have done so for every single issue so far. They've done this with immigrants. They made it so that the only message that you ever heard was this hysteria surrounding migrants, migrant crime. Migrants are killing 300,000 people a year, 400,000 people a year. It was fucking ridiculous. It was completely made up. It was unimaginably racist at times as well. Like when they said Haitians are eating cats and dogs and shit like that. These were lawful migrants that had the proper documentation and the clearance to work on U.S. soil, by the way. They had temporary protected status. You're right, what's next? I'm telling you exactly what's next. They're not hiding it. They're not sheltering you from what they are going to do next. The only reason why you'd be oblivious to what happens next is if you are not paying attention, or if you're only getting your information from liberal media, from mainstream sources that are seemingly lost in the sauce, that don't understand what the fuck is actually taking place right in front of our eyes. Just like they were blinded or blindsided, either willingly or they were oblivious to this reality, to the consent that was manufactured to even start this anti-migrant mass deportation initiative. What's going to happen next is stamping out any kind of discontent. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be illegal, even though we have a First Amendment still right now that is supposed to protect this kind of lawful political expression, political demonstrations and whatnot. I'm telling you right now, they are going to make it so that it's illegal to say fuck ICE, basically, okay? And it doesn't matter if you are a liberal or even a former Trump supporter that says fuck ICE. You are still not covered. You are still not going to be protected, because the goal here is to make that illegal, to make that expression illegal. The goal here is to basically destroy any kind of political dissent. They want to undermine and destroy the First Amendment while simultaneously presenting themselves as the protectors of the First Amendment.
Story. Her name is Selena. Listen to what she told.
I'm very proud to say that I work for ICE, and to have to take off my polo or, hide behind so that way my family is not put in danger or my colleagues are not put in danger. And I'm very, like I said, proud to work for ICE, and to have to kind of put my polo down or my badge away for
At no point do these people go, maybe what we're doing is fucked up. At no point. If you're proud, why do you have to hide? Oh, it's the threats. It's the fears. Unironically, that fake narrative, that bullshit fucking narrative for law enforcement is making this environment less safe. It is an inevitability at this point that someone is going to think that they are being kidnapped by some random fucking people coming out of an unmarked car and literally exercise their fucking Second Amendment rights. They're going to try to do castle doctrine eventually. How can people not realize this? This is I'm fearful of the repercussions. I'm fearful of what comes next. I don't want that to happen. All the while, we're not even considering the consequences of these kinds of initiatives. Like, not only are they unpopular, but they're not good at all. They're not for the betterment of society. Like mass deporting random people that are working in farms and mass deporting people at their court dates, outside of their court dates in the courthouse. Like, how is that good for anybody? You designed a manufactured hysteria around the supposedly violent undocumented migrants that were not being apprehended and that were not being arrested by the previous administration. This was bullshit. If someone, regardless of their documentation, commits a heinous crime, of course they were prosecuted and subsequently deported as well. It is ridiculous. They lied about every step of this process. They made it seem as though previously ICE was woke and the woke judges and the woke cops would just let people go. Fucking ridiculous. Oh, wow, you've decapitated 8 babies, but you're a Guatemalan migrant? I guess we have to let you go. Fuck. Joe Brandon is too woke. Like, what are you talking about? That's not what happened. Of course that's not what happened. We've always been a nation of laws, okay? Regardless of what people say. Sometimes it actually gets a little out of hand, as a matter of fact. And not a single fucking Democrat turned around and said, what are you talking about? Everything you're saying is a lie.
The safety of us.
You know, so she says that when she's not on the streets there doing her job, she's got to go unidentified because of the potential risk to her or her family.
Yeah, video shows
Exactly
ICE with a
right,
5-year-old
John.
girl
It all
while
ties
agents
back
attempt to
what we
arrest
first
their
started speaking
father.
about.
Yeah.
You know, it's this rhetoric. It's when elected officials are out there on national television saying that, these ICE agents are modern day Gestapo. Well, what are you supposed to do? I mean, if somebody heard that, during
What do you mean? It's true. And not only is it true, but it's also protected speech. What the fuck are we talking about? What are we supposed to say? How you do not get to dictate the way that people criticize the administration. That is goddamn un-American. What the fuck are we doing? That's not even allowed in other countries where they already have hate speech enforcements either. Like there's no nation state on the planet that isn't like a straight up dictatorship where you can't say the government is behaving like a fucking fascist administration and they just apprehend you. You know where they do that? In fucking Turkey they do that, okay? That's ridiculous. Turkey does not have a First Amendment. They don't have free speech there. It's ridiculous that in a country like the United States of America, we can't even fucking say the truth out loud anymore, where you're like, oh, sorry. It's just hurting people's feelings. It's like it's fomenting too much discontent, because at the heart of this matter is precisely that. You are making people too angry.
World War II, what are they inclined to do? They act out.
Turkey seems really based. Man, shut the fuck up. Go live there then, dumbass.
People in the fashion who are law enforcement officers of the country sworn to uphold the current laws of our country, of not being guided by politics here, but by the law. And they very much concerned about their safety, and it makes sense that they need to protect themselves. So, I hope there's superseding federal statutes that will allow for all these federal officers and ICE agents to continue to cover themselves in states like California and other jurisdictions where they need to do it.
All right, Bill, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for taking time with us on this story.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say...
Wow, so brave. Thank you, Ted. So brave of you. You know, a lot of people can't say this out loud, but I want to thank the boys in the blue. Thanks, Ted.
Say thank you to the...
Yeah, also, you would think that this guy shot and killed ICE officers. He did not. He shot and killed detainees, by the way. But of course, from the way that these press conferences have been designed, you would think that this guy went and shot and killed ICE officers, ICE agents. That's not the case.
Brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences. I hope that every one of us will pray. Number one, for the safety of law enforcement that are risking their lives to keep us safe. Number two, for the health of those who were shot and injured today. We still don't know the full details of who was injured, but for the families also of the victims of this shooting. Violence has no place. It is wrong. And we should come together. If we want to have a debate about immigration policies, we can do so in the halls of Congress without demonizing each other, and especially without demonizing the men and women who every day put on a badge and go risk their lives to keep us safe. And we should not be
like these people. I don't think regular Americans like can completely comprehend this, because like I said, like they have this idea that like state violence is a constant, it's normal, it's normalized, it's supposed to happen, right? So they don't actually perceive actions of the state as inherently violent actions, no matter how violent they may get. There are instances where some people at least recognize it as like violent actions, like when a cop straight up assassinates someone who is unarmed in broad daylight, you know what I mean? But they don't realize that like all politics is about the distribution of resources and the distribution of power. And a part of that is violence. Who gets to do it? Who gets to be the recipient of violence? Okay? Like in theory, what we're talking about here is that when the state behaves in a violent manner, people are supposed to go, people are supposed to say, okay, that's permissible, right? That's appropriate. That is the design of the state. It's done to protect as many people as possible, right? Because the state has a monopoly on violence. When cops go in and brutalize someone, or when cops go in and even arrest someone, even someone who deserves it, that is permissible violence, right? Because you are taking away someone's freedom. You are basically shackling them for an extended period of time, if not permanently for the rest of their lives. And there are instances where that is appropriate. Okay, there are instances where that is totally appropriate. If someone's a fucking serial killer, of course it's appropriate for the cops to literally arrest them, apprehend them, detain them, put them behind bars to ensure that they don't kill again, right? But that broad analysis does not factor into all state violence. People don't look at a situation like when ICE agents are doing the same thing to people that haven't done heinous crimes, that have simply crossed the border or got a visa at some point and overextended and stayed after their visa told them to leave, basically after their visa was over, and are simply working a regular honest day's job in a field somewhere, or as a barback, or in a fucking restaurant, or in a hospitality industry. Like, those people are not doing something that justifies this level of apprehension, that justifies their freedoms being taken away from them. Those people deserve to be documented. Those people deserve to have the proper clearance to continue working inside of U.S. borders. You can say you are wrong, and that's fine, but you have to explain to me why that is bad for the overall societal good. Why is that a bad thing? Okay? This is how discourse is supposed to take place, but these guys don't want to have this conversation any longer. They just simply want to apprehend people, detain them, arrest them, deport them, rip them away from their families, rip them away from their everyday existence, and kick them off into a concentration camp elsewhere in El Salvador, or in other countries that they are not familiar with at all, and just make them into people who have to do slave labor elsewhere. Okay, this is completely ridiculous. Like, the crime does not match the standard of violence that the state is applying. Okay, and everybody understands that reality. That's precisely the reason why Trump basically started off this conversation about mass deportations by lying about migrants, by saying that migrants were all serial rapists and bloodthirsty murderers. Okay. Because if everyone was on board with just like doing this kind of thing to their fucking neighbors, he wouldn't have to lie and say that every single Guatemalan migrant is actually doing mass rapes and mass decapitations all around the country. He wouldn't have to lie. He could just be like, they're not here legally. They need to go. We need to fucking throw them in a slave labor colony in El Salvador. Okay? A million dumb fucks on X are posting the same incorrect images of the shooter, and the poor guy is replying on his account asking them for them to stop. I don't even know what the account is that people are posting. I haven't seen more information, but I mean, the dude's name, I think, is like Joshua John or something, and obviously that's that's certainly more than one person. So of course that's going to happen on Twitter. The shooter, of course, died. So he killed himself. And obviously people are just redirecting their attention to whoever the fuck they see fit. Why can't they work in their country? Great question. Perhaps it is because their agricultural output is completely destroyed. For example, that could be one reason. That could be one fucking reason why they can't do that. But ultimately, you're asking this question, but you're also not presenting an argument as to why it's bad that they're working here. You're not telling me why they're somehow different than your parents that also immigrated here at a certain point, okay? You're not. This is Wrong Guy's account. He dispelled some misinfo in his replies. Yeah, his username says not the ICE shooter. It seems to me like he's just like posting this one, Jim Hansen. I've seen some people claiming Joshua John was a furry based on a pic from his Facebook. Seems more like he was a commie since the hat matches the one on his avatar. The image on the left is prepubescent me, not the shooter, from over a decade ago. I'm not associated with the image on the right. The hat has no meaning. It's just a stupid hat I was wearing at the time. Delete this post. Will they delete that post? Probably not.
Putting language out there that inspires madmen to commit evil crimes. Our prayers are with the men and women of law enforcement, and we ought to come together and have some decency across the political aisle to say this violence is wrong and it needs to stop.
Senator, have you been told that immigrant detainees were the victims of today's shooting?
My understanding is the details of who the victims are still being ascertained, so I don't want to go ahead of law enforcement releasing these details. What they have said is that no law enforcement was injured, and so that's a natural inference, but I don't know the details.
Not going to stop me from making a statement, though. But yeah, they have this and this. FBI reveals the Dallas ICE sniper left behind bullets with the text anti-ICE on him. 29-year-old Joshua John committed suicide after killing 2 detained illegal migrants. His profile picture on Facebook is of a communist. It's a glorious exposition comrade is the meme that's on the profile picture, which is another way to say cool story, bro, right? I've never seen Aaron Rupar tweet like this. Yeah, I saw that. Even the libs are hitting this is the fishiest shit I've ever seen. Aaron Rupar is a liberal. I've never seen Aaron Rupar turn around and go, this is the fishiest shit I've ever seen. We're supposed to believe the shooter wrote anti-ICE in pen on a bullet and then shot detainees, but not ICE officers. Now, again, information in situations like this, information comes out in real time. There is obviously a lot of mass misinformation being disseminated. Okay. As far as the shooter's background goes, as far as the shooter's leanings goes, I'm sure the FBI will do everything in their fucking power to make it an associate of Antifa or anti-fascist violence or whatever the fuck they're trying to present as like the real fear that you must, or transgender people, you know what I mean? Like the real real enemies of America, right? All the while, of course, JD Vance came out hot. The obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop. I'm praying for everyone hurt in this attack, for their families. And then there was a community note. According to an ICE spokesperson, the 3 individuals shot were ICE detainees, leaving 2 individuals dead and 1 injured. No law enforcement was injured in the shooting, according to law enforcement and news reports out of Dallas, Texas. John Favreau says the vice president is not a reliable source of information. This is now the 5th or 6th time he's posted a political take contradicted by facts from his own law enforcement agencies. And then JD Vance turns around and says, the gunman had anti-ICE messages carved on the bullets he used. What precisely did I get wrong, dipshit? That's the vice president, man, beefing it out with one of the Podjons. And no, the shooter did not carve anything onto the fucking bullet, allegedly. I want to know what the other messages were on the bullet. But here is the latest statement from our deranged Department of Homeland Security. I need you to understand something, okay? I need you to understand something. This is something that I've been bringing up quite a bit, okay? When these institutions drop all notion and pretext of impartiality in an effort to pursue the truth, when they become unreliable resources, all hell breaks loose. The reason why people are less invested or less ready to believe whatever the fuck the FBI says or the DHS says now more than ever is because they see the Department of Homeland Security from that same fucking account post Pokemon memes. Okay, when you do that, when you become an unserious agency, how the fuck do you expect people to take you seriously? This is incredibly destabilizing. Okay, I am no liberal by any means. You know this already. One of the things that I criticize liberals is about the infallibility of institutions, the defense of institutions. But unironically, this is one of the problems when these fucking institutions are not actually defensible. What is this fact check? What do you mean? What? It's not like fake. Yeah, we all saw it. What are we talking about? Why does this require a fucking fact check? Homeland Security posted a video featuring Pokemon theme song where they made the individuals that they're detaining and apprehending, they made them out to be like Pokemon. Gotta catch them all. What are we talking about? When you do stuff like that, or when you're Kash Patel and you are a patently unserious person in broad fucking daylight, and you come out with information like this, people are obviously not going to be immediately, they're just not going to believe you. You become an unbelievable person. Every time you do fucked up shit like this, you become less believable in the eyes of even Republicans, as a matter of fact. This is part of the reason why even Republicans are like, maybe it was Israel that killed Charlie Kirk, and they don't even fucking believe the FBI. This is what happens when you're unprofessional. This is what happens when you are openly biased. This is what happens when you reveal fake information or false information without actually taking this investigation seriously. I'm using the Tyler Robinson case because that was a major issue for the FBI. That was a major issue for the Department of Homeland Security as well. And these guys seemingly post like there's no tomorrow. They don't give a fuck. They have made a joke out of all of these agencies. And the same goes for lying as well, like flagrantly lying. This kind of stuff makes a mockery of the seriousness of these institutions, the seriousness of these agencies. It robs them of the credibility that they need to have so that there is like some semblance of authority when they speak. But then also on top of that, they routinely fucking lie. Like, for example, that same account lied and claimed, the Department of Homeland Security account, lied and claimed that there was no 5-year-old that was detained while agents were attempting to arrest their father. They said it was gross. It was gross to lie about this. It's on camera. It's quite literally on fucking camera, dude. So when you do that, when you just lie like this about immediately verifiable information, you turn into Israel. Nobody believes anything that Israel fucking says. Nobody trusts Israel. That didn't happen due to unlimited anti-Semitism. That happened because Israel kept fucking lying so flagrantly and so openly about things that we could fucking see with our own 2 eyes that now, whenever an Israeli envoy says anything, I assume the exact opposite. And many Americans do as well. Many people around the world do as well. There is a healthy amount of skepticism that you develop when you openly bastardize the unimaginable influence that you have as a position of authority. If you're using the position of authority to just fucking lie all the time, people are going to be like, I don't trust you. Even your own fans, even people who are on your side ostensibly, are going to not trust you. And we saw this with the example of Tyler Robinson. The FBI made a mockery of the agency by having Kash Patel speak on all of this shit. And now nobody even trusts the FBI when the FBI says, oh yeah, well, I don't know who the shooter is, or the shooter's background is this or that. And now people think, nah, it's actually Israel. Fuck you. Those are not my people who say that. Those are not, anti-fascists or leftists who say that. Those are right-wingers who are saying that. Those are people who love Donald Trump who are saying that now. Good luck. What the consequence of being untrustworthy if they have all the power? They're just dabbing on us endlessly. And I don't know what the inevitable outcome of this is. Well, ultimately, the consequence is, whether they are intending for this to happen or not, the consequences of this are mass instability, right? Like when you lose your own side because you have lost credibility even with your own base, then no one is going to trust you. And when no one fucking trusts you, when no one at all trusts you, then you can't have authority. This creates chaos. This is the social fabric eroding in front of our eyes, okay? The social contract eroding in front of our eyes is pure chaos, pure anarchy, and not like anarchism, the political ideology. I mean like anarchy in the colloquial sense. It turns into a fucking free-for-all. These guys have treated these institutions like they're nothing, like they're just another organ of propaganda, and really silly and really stupid propaganda. And of course, a byproduct of this is going to be that people don't fucking trust them. What is the expectation? This morning, a deranged gunman attacked the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE Dallas field office from a nearby rooftop. The shooter fired indiscriminately at the ICE building, as well as at a van in the Sally Port where the victims were shot. 3 detainees were shot, 2 are deceased, and the other is in critical condition. The gunman was found with a self-inflicted gun wound. We can confirm the shell casings were found with anti-ICE messages on them. This was an attack on ICE law enforcement. This horrific attack occurred amidst the 1,000% increase in assaults against ICE.gov. Politicians and the media, pundits must stop with the vile lies and smears designed to demonize and dehumanize ICE law enforcement. This shooting must serve as a wake-up call to the far left that their rhetoric about ICE has consequences. DHS is working with partner agencies on the ground. Please join us in praying for the victim and their families. President Trump and Secretary Noam stand with the men and women of ICE. Like, they don't even give a shit. They don't even, they just, you know, it's just a talking point for them. Like, oh, pray for the victims, but also, if you fucking criticize ICE, we're coming for you. Yeah, a bunch of fucking professional victims, dude. It's like you're being too mean to the Gestapo is a crazy statement to make as they're engaging in mass apprehension initiatives against people that don't deserve it. It's that simple. You know what I mean? And now 2 people that don't deserve the detainment are killed. They were shot and killed, and these guys can't even fucking give them the dignity, because obviously giving them the dignity in this moment would mean that those are human beings. And if you actually recognize that those are fucking human beings that were unjustly being detained in this regard, in this way, then obviously it kind of blows the lid on the entire ICE operations, right? All of a sudden you're like recognizing the humanity of these victims, then people are going to start asking the question, why the fuck are you detaining them then? What have they done? And I don't know what crimes these people had done in this circumstance, but what I do know is that the overwhelming majority of people that are being detained are not being detained because they've done heinous crimes, but they're simply being detained because the administration wants to prove to the most racist people in their base of support that they're doing something. That's it. They are simply pawns, easily discarded for a message. And it's interesting because that message has not been received positively by the broad subsects of American society. People who have seen this are now turning around and saying, I don't like this. Why are you arresting these people? You lied to me. You told me that these guys were all like rapist pedophiles, and the guys you're arresting are my fucking neighbors. They didn't do shit. Donald Trump is underwater on his immigration agenda. It was his most popular policy. And now he is underwater on immigrant apprehension. No thanks, JD. I will not be going straight to hell today. Though when I watch you speak, I certainly feel like I'm already there. Oh, God, with these dunks. Anyway, yeah, here's JD Vance also using this as an opportunity to continue the anti-left rhetoric to try to say like, oh, it's the left that is doing this. We have to stop them. Where do you think it will go? Where do you think this will go, for the record? This is going to inevitably lead to the administration taking action, okay? The administration taking action against any sort of political dissent.
And while we're all mourning and rooting for and praying for everybody who was injured at that ICE facility, and as far as we know, it looks like some of the detainees, in other words, some of the potential illegal aliens, were some of those who were affected. Look,
he can't even see. This is what I mean. He can't even recognize the humanity of those who were apprehended, who were shot and killed. Because if he does, then all of a sudden it leads people to question why they're doing this. Why are you doing this to regular humans? You should be doing this to violent, barbaric, rapist monsters, not regular human beings. Do you understand?
Just because we don't support illegal aliens, we don't want them to be executed by violent assassins engaged in political violence either. So we're praying both for our ICE agents, but also for everybody who's affected by this terrible attack.
Praying for our ICE agents again, but also maybe the detainees as well, who are illegal aliens. Like, if calling a right-winger a fascist for demonstrating fascist ideology is violent rhetoric, what is calling a fucking detained person who was just slain an illegal alien? What is that? Words or violence doesn't go in one direction only. It goes in both directions. But these guys want to maintain whatever kind of violent, dehumanizing rhetoric they want to fucking engage with. And then when you say that that violent and dehumanizing rhetoric is identical to the way that Nazis fucking operated, you go, whoa, that's words are violent. Words are violence. How dare you? At its root, and this is something that many of you have probably experienced, right? Someone says something racist. You call them out and you say, hey, man, that's racist. They yell at you for calling them out. It's not the racism demonstrated by that person that's a problem. It's that you are calling it out. You're the problem.
And while we're all mourning and rooting for and praying for everybody who was injured at that ICE facility. And as far as we know, it looks like some of...
Here's the other thing that he said.
Because here's what happens when Democrats like Gavin Newsom did say that these people are part of an authoritarian government. When the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration.
My thoughts are the administration is doing this since there are millions of people breaking into our country illegally. You do realize that Obama and all the Dems are deporting millions as well too, right? Why does it only matter when Trump does it? Take this to someone else that has defended the mass deportation policies of previous liberal administrations and not the one fucking guy who has been actively yelling at the Democrats for doing the exact same thing. There are plenty of people who are not morally consistent on this. Okay, there are plenty of people who are hypocritical on this. I'm not one of those people. Oh my God. It doesn't make any sense because like imagine if you actually won this argument on the virtue of hypocrisy. Like what argument have you won? Is it bad or is it good? What's the argument? I believe it's bad. You want to know why I believe it's bad? Because these people are not harming anyone. As a matter of fact, they're actually helping people, okay? They are literally contributing to the economy. Not that they have to, they're human beings. They simply just want a better life. There is no difference between someone who has come into this country from Guatemala versus your parents that were on fucking Ellis Island, okay? There's no difference. They are just human beings. I do not believe that there is any significant difference between one person over the next. The only difference is that the administration has taken their sweet time deliberately to not offer them the proper documentation. That's it. Many of your great-grandparents, when they first came here, unless they're directly WASPs, were also treated in a similar way. Undesirable, ruining the culture of America. Now, you, many generations removed from that kind of dehumanizing rhetoric, are comfortably a part of the white identity. Okay? Whiteness as a socio-political construct has expanded greatly. Those whose great-grandparents came here as Italian migrants also were met with violence and dehumanizing rhetoric at the point of entry into the country. Now, that seems fucking laughable. It seems ridiculous to consider an Italian person to be not white or to consider an Irish person to be not white. Anyway, everyone, I'm here to speak amicably, not be rude in any way, just asking asking questions to better understand. Okay, well, I hope you understand, Elon Musk 858. Yeah, swarthy German mentioning coming. I'm not even going to get into it, okay? Go back far enough, yes, Germans were considered not white by Benjamin Franklin himself. The only people that were considered white that weren't immediate WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, were French because Benjamin Franklin wanted to fuck French ladies, okay? That's why he was like, I'll make a consideration for the French. That's it.
Policies, you don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell.
So when 90% of them supported Obama on deportations, then they were all wrong, right? And ultimately they have to swallow crow since they were all on board. You might as well call 90% of the current Dems Nazis since they had the same mindset just a dozen years ago. Again, I have to repeat this. First of all, the 90% that supported Obama's deportation policies is a ridiculous number and it's not correct. But the percentage of Democrats that did support it, I did fucking call fascist. I did. Why do you think liberals constantly say I'm a fucking spoiler and I only want to divide the left? Dude, you are, again, you're in the community of a person who literally talked to elected representatives in the lead up to the election directly and said, you have to address the migrant panic that the Republicans are concocting. It is mass hysteria. And in the absence of any sort of counter message and in the absence of any sort of counter narrative that actually shows the truth, this is going to become a major problem. You can make up statistics all day, every day, but you can't actually come in here and say that to me, a person who has been an advocate for migrant rights forever. So no, I didn't miss your message. Now I read it. It was just as stupid.
Together. But make no mistake, that conversation is inspired by the people you just saw on your screen.
All systems go on this.
I am very reluctant to say that violent actions of an individual is
all
predicated
systems
by
go on this, okay? Hundreds of mass shootings conducted by Trump supporters being like, I love Donald Trump. That's why I'm killing black people or whatever. Doesn't matter. That's woke nonsense. Just move along, okay? And then all of a sudden now it's like the Democrats, the demon rats. They're demonizing our big, beautiful, brave ICE law enforcement agents by correctly calling what they're doing to be fascist.
Insane on the left. What Democrat is ready to look at this clown show that is now inspiring violence and say that will no longer speak for us who simply disagree? Gavin Newsom asks, what are ICE agents afraid of? The answer, Governor, is this.
Yeah, see,
this is what
this is how you know their anger is for everybody, by the way, because they're redirecting this to Gavin fucking Newsom, okay? They're redirecting the animosity to Gavin Newsom. Shouts out to Gavin, by the way, Big Gav. Not my favorite guy, but at least I'm glad that he's like a magnet for all of the hate and animosity in these trying times. Why are they redirecting it back to him? Because he said in the state of California, if you're a fucking law enforcement officer, you can't wear a mask and hide your identity. That makes total sense. The fuck do you mean? You're a public servant.
That thousands of other conservatives shamelessly celebrated the assassination and called for more of them. Now imagine that in the same week, another right-winger shot up a country club while shouting
crying
MAGA.
Like crazy. They're just like, the Republican mentality is about perceived victimhood. Like they're attacking Christians. They're attacking our way of life. They're attacking traditional family values. They want us dead. They want us dead over and over and over again. Okay. And in the process of that perceived victimhood, this perceived victimhood narrative that they channel, they get increasingly more insane. But because they're fucking professional victims, there are plenty of people in the base that also subscribe to this professional victimhood narrative. Like, think about that. These guys have all the levers of power and they're still fucking crying. They do all of their wishes. They get away with whatever the fuck they want to do. Unlimited violence to designated targets of the administration, vulnerable populations, whether they be trans, whether they be undocumented migrants or whatnot, and now also the left, right? Any expression of liberalism, any expression of empathy is now going to be punished. They have full control. People don't like what they're doing. So instead of addressing the democratic wishes of the majority of American society, they're just trying to stamp out people that say, I don't like this. This is fascism through and through. Okay? That's all this is. They are doing this at the behest of some of the most racist dipshits in society because they're not going to actually address the cost of living crisis. They're not going to actually offer you free health care. So they're just trying to throw red meat at key parts of their base. For the white evangelical Protestants, it was abortion. Right? It was criminalizing abortion, making it a punishable offense, even though it's a part of healthcare, part of regular ass healthcare. And this was met with a lot of animosity, even from Republican voters, as a matter of fact. Then now they're turning around and giving a lot of the white nationalists in the base that are fearful of Mexicans and Guatemalans and whatnot, a opportunity to feel comfortable, an opportunity to say, hey, look, we got your back. We're doing things that we promised we were going to do. We're doing mass deportation. All the while, none of that is actually productive. It's not even good for the economy. It's actually very bad for the economy. And all you're doing is enforcing cruelty upon some of the most marginalized, some of the most vulnerable communities, just so a couple people can feel better because there's someone else that they can lord over, someone else that's lower than they are. And if you call that out, you're a fucking enemy. What's going to happen when it's not only, 60% of the American public that's against this, but 75% of the American public that's against this? What's going to happen when it starts eating away at the base? Are they going to arrest all of us? Is that what they're going to do? Do they think that, like, if you simply deplatform or arrest or make threats of deplatforming or criminal prosecution against those who are critical of the administration's actions, what's going to happen when you criminalize that? Do you think that's going to make people feel better? Do you think that's going to make people think, oh, you know what? Previously, I really didn't like that the fucking masked agents came to my neighborhood and packed up my neighbor that I like quite a bit. He's done nothing wrong. He's not a criminal at all. He just works at a fucking restaurant in the neighborhood. This person that was a part of our community. Previously, I didn't like that. But now that they arrested people who are saying that this is fucked up and wrong, demonstrating my feelings, now I actually believe it's a good thing. Is that what we think is going to happen? No, of course not. You cannot stamp out discontent, especially if you are not offering anything material to the base of support. If you're not giving them an immediate improvement in their lives and you do this kind of shit, people are just going to keep getting increasingly more and more angry. And when there is no pressure valve, because communication is a part of this process in a democratic society, a part of the process is you communicate your anxieties, you communicate your anger, you communicate your frustration, and you do so by going out and protesting, for example. When you make that illegal, when you make protests illegal, when you make saying that the administration is wrong illegal, people are going to still feel angry and they're not going to have a pressure valve. They're not going to have something that they can do to exercise their discontent. It doesn't go away. This anger is not going to go away. It's that simple. It's so dumb. And so just like you communicate to your, in air quotes, fans, insinuating violence, Nepo baby. Okay, man. Update. The Department of Homeland Security issued a correction Wednesday afternoon saying that as of 2:30 p.m. local time in Dallas, one detainee is deceased and 2 others are in critical condition.
Back to better parenting, to better education, to the fundamentals. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. But we
Genuine question. I don't agree with deporting anyone already on U.S. soil, but what do you think about border control? Do you think having an open border policy is better? I think at least we should do background checks. Yes, dude. Yes. When what people are representing as like open borders is not this like anyone can walk over the fucking border. Yeah, of course there needs to be background checks, man. What are we talking about? Yes, we already have that, by the way. Once again, a lot of people just take the Republican framework and go along with it as though these guys are sincere, right? No, understand that your ideological opponents are reframing the narrative in a way that suits their purpose. They are bastardizing the message that you're putting out there. You have no obligation to respond to their insincere framing, okay? Oh, fuck. What are the chances of the 2 detainees that died that were in the U.S. legally? It could be the case. I mean, these guys detain legal, lawful, permanent residents as well, because right now they want to get as big number as many people as possible, right? In order to soothe the appetite for death and destruction by some of these fucking losers in American society. This is not like a majority opinion. Obviously, that's why it's unfavorable, right? But in the process of doing so, to get as many numbers as possible, they're just apprehending people who look Mexican. They're apprehending people who sound Mexican. They're doing it all the time. And there are a fuck ton of Americans with actual paperwork who were born on U.S. soil even, that get detained in the process. We don't even fucking know if these guys were actually here illegally. They might be, but we don't know. And it doesn't seem like these guys even give a shit about addressing whether or not these guys, like addressing the victims at all.
Governor Greg Abbott, thank you so much for being with us here today. All right, we have a bit of breaking news now for you. It's about former FBI Director James Comey. We get to that next.
Yeah, they're also, I guess they're prosecuting James Comey or something. It's all petty grievances, man. It's all fucking petty grievances. It is crazy. So you think anyone whose background check is good, they should be able to just walk in? If someone is not harming anybody and they're going to be a good contributor to the American economy, why the fuck would you avoid letting them into the country? This is what I don't understand. Yeah, the irony, of course, is that if you did not want people to come into the country, the easiest thing you could do is perhaps not ruin their fucking personal home countries that they're coming from, because no one travels thousands of fucking miles, oftentimes by foot, to go through treacherous terrain to simply fuck up the country that they're going to. They're not like, they don't have some sort of sinister purpose. They just want to fucking work. They want jobs. They want to make ends meet just like you do. We must address the reasons as to why migration takes place from Latin American countries, first and foremost. If you truly think this is a major imposition, which is not the case, by the way. It's not a major imposition. They just want a better life. And we're a large enough country, especially because there is no lump sum of labor unless there is a process of different tiers for who is allowed to work legally and who is working illegally. There is no lump sum of labor. When the population number grows, job opportunities grow as well. Can you show proof that illegal immigration isn't rising in numbers? What do you mean? Did I even say any of that? I mean, the Trump administration claims that they've stamped out illegal immigration now because of their violent detention strategies and whatnot. But anyway, Donald Trump has also released a statement, and we'll obviously return back to this situation later when more information comes out. I'm going to continue talking about all this other stuff as well. But Hasan, I know you're going to call me an anarchist, but I don't think we should base the idea of immigration being good or bad based on it being productive to our fucked up capitalist society. I don't even care about that, but I'm just saying it's such a fucking idiotic thing that it doesn't even make sense from a capitalist framework either, okay? They're human beings. You don't know what kind of potential they have. I'm just attacking the most common ways that people lie about undocumented migrants. Anyway, Trump says, I've been briefed on the deadly shooting at ICE field office in Dallas, Texas. It has now been revealed that the deranged shooter wrote anti-ICE on his shell casings. This is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are just trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst criminals out of our country. But they are facing unprecedented increase in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists. This violence is a result of radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished, and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. The continuing violence from radical left terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination must be stopped. ICE officers and other brave members of law enforcement are under grave threat. We already declared Antifa a terrorist organization, and I will be signing an executive order this week to dismantle these domestic terrorism networks. I am calling on all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement right now. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement, strong borders, securing our homeland, deporting violent, illegal criminals, and fully rooting out the left-wing domestic terrorism that is terrorizing our country. Thank you for attention to this, for your attention to this matter. Democrats are so fucking stupid. Oh my God, they're not. If they cave on this, if they just like don't actually come out and say this is ridiculous. The reason why people are angry is not because Democrats are saying anything. The reason why people are angry is because you're deporting their fucking neighbors for no goddamn reason other than to distract people away from your inability to address the economic harm that they were fucking experiencing. If the Democrats don't come out and say that, they might as well just obey in advance and say, yes, you're right, Mr. President. We hate the evil radical left. And then they'll go get arrested too. What is this? James O'Keefe hits the Trump administration again over Epstein with a video saying Trump is protecting people by hiding the files. Senior DOJ Epstein investigator reveals Epstein was CIA, confirms rapes occurred while Bill Clinton was on the plane, says of President Trump, he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there. I've interviewed all the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and the rapes occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. The DOJ didn't want to go after Epstein because he's an asset for the United States and Israel. It's not talked about yet, but it soon come out that Epstein, was a CIA informant. All these deportations and my wages haven't increased and my rent and groceries are only getting more expensive. Exactly. Who trusts James O'Keefe, man? Are you gullible? No, I don't. But it is important that a person who is a profoundly important Republican hatchet man is now seemingly turning on the Trump administration a little bit, because this is how the right also moves on this issue, slowly but surely. It's the same reason why I cover the Candace Owens conspiracies about how it was definitely Israel that killed Charlie Kirk, okay? I cover everything. I cover all angles. My job is to correct the record and to look at the actual fact and examine them critically in an instance where people are spreading misinformation, and many people do it for partisan purpose. Sometimes they do it. Sometimes they do it in a way where it's not even, it's like somehow clearing Trump, but also simultaneously shitting on Trump for protecting Bill Clinton. Also, that narrative that he is designing here is unironically closer to the truth than any number of different Epstein-adjacent conspiracies that you have heard, okay? The idea that Donald Trump is protecting the super wealthy, including fucking Bill Clinton, is unironically the case. The real reason as to why he's not revealing the Epstein files or a client list is because he does not want people to pursue. He does not want people to be like, what the fuck? All of our societal elites were somehow connected to this like serial mass rapist, pedophile, sex trafficker that was very clearly an asset for U.S. and Israeli intelligence. Interesting. Remember, Donald Trump is a major dick rider of Israel. Okay, Israel says jump. Donald Trump says how high. What is this? ACE Deputy Director Madison Shahan. Someone chose to come in and kill these detainees while they were being processed. Note how the administration officials don't have their story straight on this.
Shouldn't have been here illegally, but they didn't deserve to be executed.
Absolutely. They didn't deserve this at all. And, you know, there's a Justice Department for a reason, and they'll go through their due process. But somebody chose to come in and kill these detainees as they were being processed.
Are they processed like hourly? So if you're sitting up on the roof, you're probably going to see a couple of vans out during the day?
Absolutely, and especially in the morning. A lot of our operations take place in the morning. It's when we see a high traffic area. And the situation could have been much worse if there was even more detainees, even more ICE officials at the facility as this person decided to throw rounds into our facility.
You know, I mean, it's unthinkable. I mean, you're just going to work, you're doing your job.
Anyway,